Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Well, today I'm going to be reviewing this cool looking little RC buggy I just received in from Banggood. This is the Eachine EC30. Now I'm going to briefly show you the box because there actually isn't any Eachine branding on this, oddly enough. But it's being sold under the Eachine name. It's actually on a box, as we can see here, called the Twister XB, and they have a brushed and a brushless version of this buggy. So let's take a closer look at the car. This is the brushed version, so I don't have unfortunately the brushless because I always like to have the brushless if I can. But brushed is still a very reliable technology, been around a long time, and a little bit simpler technology. And there's nothing at all wrong with brushed. Now, as you can see, there's no spoiler on the back of this, and that's because they actually give you two different of these Lexan spoilers, a full-size one, and then they give you like a miniature one. So you can choose which one you want to put on. The screws are in there, along with a Phillips screwdriver to attach it. So of course I'm going to attach it. I'm just going to use a full-size one before the actual drive review, which will be coming up here shortly. They also give you a USB balance plug charger, and you've got 4 extra body clips. And that's pretty much all you get in terms of spare parts. The instruction manual is pretty decent. It just gives you basic startup information. It gives you a whole assembly. It's not just one exploded view page. And you get this sheet of Twister and number 68 and Go for Passion Speed decals you can apply to the body if you wish. And then of course they tell you on the body to remove that protective film before you apply the decals or drive it, because that's just to protect the body itself. So this thing looks pretty nice. Now I don't know exactly who makes this. I mean, Twister I guess is the brand. I've never heard of that brand. There is a logo here on the box as well, but it has some characteristics of like the Bonsai Jabatis, I believe it was called, I reviewed a while back. It also looks a little bit like some of the ZD Racing stuff. It has a little bit of that look to it as well. But the controller, which you can see, there's a sticker on here telling you not to move the trigger until the controller is bind, so you don't mess anything up, and that still have some residue on there. But this is like a PX Toys looking controller. So again, I'm not exactly sure who makes this buggy, but it does just have friction shocks. You can always tell that when it has like a screw in the top here. These are not oil filled, and these would not hold oil, they would just leak. You can adjust, it looks like, the tension on the springs though, which is good. And this would be very easy to upgrade to oil filled if you wanted to. So let's go ahead and take a look at the chassis and underneath the body. Let's take a quick look at the bottom. It is just a plastic composite, so it is not like aluminum chassis or like a carbon fiber or something like that. But this is very inexpensive. I think it was around $73. So a 1/14 scale little RC buggy, fully proportional like this, that's not a bad price. And this is going to be way better than anything you're going to buy at like Walmart or something, so keep that in mind. And you do have the aluminum shock tower supports here, so these are going to be nice for holding, not busting off or anything. So good that they have included some aluminum parts on this as well, so that is always really nice. Though you do have just plastic dog bones and the A-arms and all that, so all this, the turnbuckles, all that is plastic, so keep that in mind. It's a composite plastic, so it's a little stronger than the cheap ABS plastic, but it still is more prone to bust than if it were aluminum or a metal or like a carbon fiber. So as with many of these RC cars now, they include the little body clips, the little tab on them to pull them off. Makes it so much easier to get them off. And there is the electronics for the car. Now it has a brushed motor, as I mentioned. They do make a brushless version of this, so you can get that as well if you wanted to look at it on the Banggood site. I don't know the price, but it is going to be, of course, more money for the brushless version, but many times it's not always that much. Hopefully it's within $20 of this one. It uses a lithium ion battery. This is a 1500 milliamp lithium ion with a Dean's plug. The good thing about the lithium ion is, even though they have a little bit less punch than a LiPo, is because you're just getting a cheap charger, lithium ions are not nearly as sensitive to being stored at storage voltage. If you're new to the hobby and you don't have a hobby grade charger, you can leave this at whatever voltage and the battery will be good for a lot longer than a LiPo, which needs to be stored at around 3.8 to 3.85 volts per cell. If you don't store those LiPos at the storage voltage, they can go bad, puff, swell, and they can get rather dangerous. So it's probably a good idea on these more beginner cars. They do actually include a lithium ion, which again is not as sensitive to being kept at storage voltage. So you got a 390 brush motor with this passive cooling. This is always good. You keep the motor cool. The airflow through there will help move the heat away, and heat is the biggest enemy to these motors, especially a brushed motor like this, and its longevity and keeping it from going bad really soon. You have your steering servo, which is just a 3-wire. That's a standard 3-wire. So 3-wire is your hobby grade more servo. So if you ever did like a brushless upgrade to this, you could keep the servo and you wouldn't have to replace that like you would with the 5-wire ones that are many times included with this lower price stuff. And right here you have your brushed ESC and your receiver combo. So this is all in one, your receiver and your built-in ESC, and it has a few auxiliary plugs in there like for hooking up lights or something if you wanted to. So that's pretty much it on the electronics. The tires seem pretty nice. They're a pretty nice rubber compound. More you know, they're not spiked, so they're not necessarily a dirt off-road, but these will be fine for driving on pavement and such, and you're not going to have to worry about them wearing down. They do have a bit of an unusual here that it has like a Phillips screwdriver head rather than like a nut on the outside, which is interesting. I've never seen that before, but that might be good. Maybe that will not loosen as much, as some of those nuts can be prone to loosening up and actually coming off on some of these little RC cars. So just looking it over, I think we covered a lot. This is 4-wheel drive, of course, so if I move the front, the back moves, and if I move the back, the front wheels move. It does have full, differentials as you'd expect. I didn't look closely at the exploded diagram. Well, it's not exploded, but it has exploded views on each page. And I don't know if these are metal gears on the inside or not of this guy, but this one will be just fine on a brushed motor. And I think this is going to be pretty good because it feels like, to me, good quality for the price. You can't get anything in a brick and mortar store that's going to come close to this for this price. And you have your on and off switch right here on the side, which is very easy to access. Many times they put these bodies on, you got to dig up around, you're trying to find the ESC and you're trying to find that button. It's a real pain in the behind, and this is nice. It's got the power button here on the side for this car. And let's just briefly take a look at the controller, and then we'll get outside for the drive review, which, as you can see, I've not done the drive review yet, of course. You got a foam grip on the wheel, which is always nice to prevent slipping. You have a speed, your steering trim, and then like your dual rates. Actually, it's not your dual rates, it's just going to be your trim. So if the car would be creeping forward a little bit or backwards, you trim it until you get neutral. So it's actually just your speed switch, it says. Your steering trim to adjust so if the car pulls to the right or left. Steering reversing, that's something you don't need to worry about. That just basically flips to the servo so the steering goes the opposite direction when you turn the wheel. And your on and off switch right here, which I have no batteries in it yet. And it takes just 2 batteries going this way. So this is just like the actually not PX Toys. This actually looks more like the HBX controllers. So I wonder if this might be an HBX now that I think about it, because I have a ground crusher controller that has the vertical batteries that go into it. But I've seen, PX Toys make some similar to this. There's several different companies that use this style of controller, but it makes me wonder if maybe this might have Hyboxing, which is HBX is short for. They make a lot of RC car parts, sort of like Zinlahong does, so they may have had their hands in on this, and it wouldn't be surprised at all. But again, this is the Eachine branded Eachine EC30. All right, guys, that's enough jibber jabbering on the table review. Let's get outside now for the drive review and see how this little buggy performs. So I'll be right back. All right, guys, I got the Eachine EC30, Twister XB is its other name, outside for the test review. One thing I want to make a quick note of, during the table review I said that this speed switch was like your speed trim and not the dual rate. It actually does appear to be dual rate, because when I crank it all the way up, the car doesn't start creeping forward. So it was not set all the way up. So you want to make sure you get top speed, then do turn the dial all the way to the right. So it actually is the dual rates. I was wrong about that. It just looked like a throttle trim. So let's get it out here and test it. Now, this is the same day I just tested the Rolarlo's new brushless buggy, the same size as this. And this will be a good comparison for myself to see, you know, sometimes in these smaller cars, going up the brushless isn't always better. Because as you guys saw in that review, it got squirrely at times. On 3S, it was impossible to control. But I want to see, how does this little, you know, 390 brushed buggy do? Now, it's a lot lower end in terms of plastic dog bones. It doesn't have carbon fiber body. Of course, it's not brushless. And these are just friction shocks. So, you know, there's things that you would want to upgrade if you really wanted to make this better, including the shocks. But, you know, I want to see, you know, sometimes, like I said, sometimes on these, going faster is not always better. So let's see how this guy does. It's bouncier for sure because those friction shocks are not able to dampen and absorb the little bumps and impacts like good oil-filled shocks. And it's lighter weight too. All that plastic is still lighter than the carbon fiber, so it's bouncing more. So I just got topped up on top of something here. I want to make sure we can, let's see how it goes. Wait, I want to see, let's try to take it to the grass here, because if you watch that, the Rolarlo video would be just probably one video before this. How does this do in the grass, you know? Once we get going, it can go. It's okay. But as you saw there a moment ago, if you try to start out in that grass, it can sometimes, it didn't do it there, get just kind of bogged down. But I want to just compare, how does this thing do, like with the jumps down here? It's not going to have as much speed, but is it going to jump this and land on all four wheels, or is it going to flip upside down like the other one, being this is the same size and very similar buggy? Yeah, the first thing I would do is throw some oil-filled shocks on this guy. It's very bouncy. It's not like bad. It's not like I can't control it, but it'd be smoother. It would be able to go over the jumps, the bumps, I should say, and keep itself less bouncy. And that'd be a very cheap upgrade. You know, you might be able to do that for under 20 bucks if you ordered them from China. Ordered them from Banggood, but let's see how it does here in the jumps. So this is, like I said, this is around $73. That's really cheap, and you're not going to get anything at your store that's going to be able to come close to this. Even on Amazon, you can't get something this good. Though if you're able to get that Rolarlo buggy, you know, for under 100 bucks, it's obviously still the way to go. But normal price, you know, that's a special, obviously. You know, this is going to be, you know, typically a lot less expensive. So let's see if we get going here. And you see, obviously, it's not able to get to the same amount of speed as a brushless, so it didn't really jump. It just kind of just cleared the hill. Let's see if we can do it again. Maybe we can get lucky and get enough speed going to actually try to jump it. Just try to keep the momentum going here. Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't have the speed to actually do this hill and actually jump it where the brushless Rolarlo was able to. And of course, it just kept flipping upside down. But you know what? This is more fun at the moment because I'm not having to correct it. Even though it's not jumping, and obviously this is a pretty big hill and that grass is thick. So keep that in mind. If this were pavement, we'd be able to get a jump here and get a better idea, does this flip or not? But so far, this little buggy's working really well. And it handles well, and the friction shocks get the job done. But obviously it'd be ideal if we were able to get a jump going here. But that grass is just too thick. Again, it's not like the grass is tall, it's just thick, and this buggy, just like on the Rolarlo, it just doesn't have a lot of clearance. The little wheels, it's just having trouble, you know, getting a lot of speed built up. The Rolarlo being brushless on a 2S LiPo, which has a little more power than a lithium ion, was able to get enough speed going, but it was able to jump. But like I said, it always flips. So again, the reason why I'm talking so much about it is it's a great comparison for me, being that I've driven these back to back within like 20 minutes of each other. So even though you guys will be seeing these days apart, if you're a subscriber. And like I said, I love brushless, but sometimes going brushless is not always better. And I think on this, at this size and this sort of design, I think you might just be better off sticking with brushed. So I feel like on brushless systems similar to the Rollo and this guy, I think it would probably be pretty similar results. Though I can't say for certain on the flipping over, because that could be a weighting issue, that the car is just a little bit back heavy or something, which is causing it to, you know, it's sagging as it comes off. You want the weight to be evenly balanced so it doesn't sag and then cause it to flip as it's coming off the ramp. This is a pretty decent speed. I mean, I'm not going to mess with top speed test on this. Whoa! And that's the first time we flipped it, and that's because of the way I hit that. You know, it's going to happen. But it moves along pretty good on a 2S lithium ion with all these plastic parts, and it's, you know, this is not bad at all. I mean, this would be an absolutely great little RC car for a kid or someone who's just getting into the hobby and looking for something that's going to be fun, fast, but not crazy fast to where it's uncontrollable. But most importantly, it's not going to break the bank. $73 plus whatever shipping charges is a really good deal. And again, you go to Walmart and try to buy, you can spend this much for some cheap RC car that's not half this. So keep that in mind. The only downside, of course, is the shipping time. It could take several weeks to a month to get. Obviously, something on Amazon is going to take a couple of days, but those are always going to be, the Amazon stuff's going to be marked up on the cars. So you're going to probably pay, you know, up to twice as much. You might pay $120 or something for this car on Amazon. At least $100, I would think. So if you're worried about money and saving and a budget, and you're on a budget, and you don't mind waiting a few weeks to a month to get this, this is a good little car. Just really kind of impressed. It's better than I thought it would be. Moves along really good. And the power, as we can see, man, that's pretty thick clover and stuff in there, and it's going through it. It's not fast, but you can't expect it to be as thick as that is. I mean, look, I'm able to we flipped it there again and doing a very sharp turn, but when you're driving something around like this, you want to really, you know, give it some extreme steering and see just how well balanced it is and how well does it handle it. And so far it's done a pretty bang up job. We flipped it twice. Will we flip it more on brushless? Well, yeah, we would. It would be faster, but nice. Of course, you could throw a 2S LiPo in here and you might get might get 1 or 2 mile per hour speed, but more importantly, you'll get a little more kick on the on acceleration on startup. So keep that in mind, and there's no problem. Now, this is very tall weeds. I got to mow here later today, so of course we're getting stuck, and that's understandable. Could you go 3S on this? I don't know. I don't know what the ESC's amperage is rated at. You probably could, but you have to really be careful. You know, it could just blow the ESC. If it doesn't, you're gonna have to, you know, make sure you maybe got a fan to cool it, or that you make sure you take a break between runs to let the ESC cool down, because the heat can really get to it on 3S. So I wouldn't try 3S, but I'm not saying it's not possible. But yeah, I would grab a couple small 2S LiPo packs if you wanted to make a small difference. Just keep in mind those need to be stored, as I mentioned, at a good storage voltage if you're going to mess with LiPos. So lithium ions are not nearly as sensitive to that. All right, guys, I think that should be enough. I mean, since driving in 100 circles, you guys saw what it can do. It can't really jump that big ramp simply because it can't get enough speed going, but it's pretty well balanced. I mean, I'm holding this in my hand. It doesn't feel, it feels well balanced. You see, I'm putting it on, it's not like tipping and rocking one way. So it's not one, it seems pretty well balanced for jumping as far as I can tell. It handles exceptionally well. I would just throw some oil-filled shocks on this guy and he'd be good to go, and you'd probably still be spending under $100 if you got this from Banggood along with the shocks. All right, guys, that wraps up the review of the Eachine EC30 Twister XB. If you're interested in this, there'll be a purchase link down in the video description along with in the pinned comment. If you do choose to purchase anything through my videos, keep in mind you're not making me rich, okay? You're helping to support the channel. A very small commission I would make off those affiliate links. They do help out the channel. They don't cost you anything, and usually you're saving money because of special coupons that I get. But it helps me to be able to produce these videos for you guys. I always try to be as honest as possible and not sugarcoat anything, so keep that in mind. If you're new to the channel, click that bell. That way you're notified every time I do upload a video. Make sure you subscribe. And as always, guys, have a wonderful day.
The power of the dark side.